Today is day 2 for the complementary study for this week, August 3rd through the 9th. Thou art come for such a time as this. Esther. Tuesday, August 4th, 2026, Esther 3 through 4. Esther 3. Mordecai the Jew refuses to bow to Haman. In the book of Esther, we learn from the faithfulness of Esther and Mordecai, but we also learn from the pride and anger of Haman. As you read Esther 3 and 5, 9 through 14, note Haman's feelings, words, and actions. Esther 3, 1 through 2. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence.
In the days of Ahasuerus, king of Persia, the Jews who had been carried away captive into Babylon had spread throughout all the eastern provinces.
Bow before Haman.
There were some in authority who hated the Jews, for they bowed to no man, but worshipped only their God, as did Mordecai.
Esther 3, 3 through 4. Then the king's servants, which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. When Mordecai and Esther stood up for their beliefs and their people, they put their lives at risk. Our choices might have less severe consequences, but doing the right thing can still require courage. What do you learn from Esther 3, 1 through 4 about having courage to do the right thing? Esther 3, 5. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath. Haman arranges a decree to kill all the Jews in the kingdom. Esther 3, 6. And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. There probably was nothing personal in Mordecai's refusal to bow to Haman. The only explanation offered is that Mordecai claimed exception on the ground that he was a Jew. Probably the inference is justified that Haman was demanding not mere allegiance, but worship, and Mordecai would not break the first commandment. If fear of idolatry lay behind the refusal to bow down, then no Jew would bow down, and Haman's decision to take vengeance on the whole people becomes understandable. Similar acts of revenge involving wholesale slaughter are recorded by Herodotus. The account identifies Haman as an Agagite, which likely means he was a descendant of the Amalekite king Agag. The Amalekites were long-standing enemies of the Israelites. Mordecai's refusal to bow to Haman and Haman's determination to have the Jews killed may have stemmed from the historic hostility between these two groups of people. Josephus said, Now there was one Haman, the son of Hammedatha, by birth an Amalekite, that used to go in to the king, and the foreigners and Persians worshipped him, as Artaxerxes had commanded that such honor should be paid to him. But Mordecai was so wise and so observant of his own country's laws that he would not worship the man. When Haman observed this, he inquired whence he came, and when he understood that he was a Jew, he had indignation at him, and said within himself that whereas the Persians, who were free men, worshipped him, this man, who was no better than a slave, does not vouchsafe to do so. And when he desired to punish Mordecai, he thought it too small a thing to request of the king that he alone might be punished. He rather determined to abolish the whole nation, for he was naturally an enemy to the Jews, because the nation of the Amalekites, of which he was, had been destroyed by them. Esther 3:7. In the first month, that is, the month Nisan, In the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is the lot, before Haman from day to day, and from month to month, to the 12th month, that is the month Adar, to determine which day to kill all the Jews in Persia. Haman and his attendants cast pur, that is the lot. Casting lots was a common practice in the ancient Near East, used to make decisions or determine fate. It typically involved tossing small objects like stones, bones, or ivory. The Jewish feast of Purim gets its name from pur, the Persian word for lot. Esther 3, 8-15. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people. Neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it is not of the king's profit to suffer them. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those who have the charge of the business, to bring it into the king's treasuries. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the Jews' enemy. And the king said unto Haman, The silver is given to thee, the people also, to do with them as it seemeth good to thee. Then were the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants, and to the governors that were over every province, and to the rulers of every people of every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. In the name of King Ahasuerus was it written, and sealed with the king's ring. And the letters were sent by posts into all the king's provinces, to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women in one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day. The post went out, being hastened by the king's commandment, and the decree was given in Shushan the palace. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city Shushan was perplexed.
To an unseen and unproven God, what is it you would have done, Haman? If it please the king, let it be written that all the Jews may be destroyed.
The king knew not that his new queen, Esther, was a Jew.
To destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey.
Esther was queen for 3 years before Haman put his plot to work. This he did by first casting pur, or lots, to determine the day for carrying out the decree, first for the day of the month, and then for the month of the year. Here the question is forced upon us, why the decree should have been so prematurely published. The scribes were summoned to prepare it on the 13th day of the first month. For this purpose, even though many copies had to be made in different languages, no very long time would be required in a well-appointed government office. As soon as the scribes had finished their work, the decree was sent out by the post into all quarters of the realm, and would arrive in even the most distant provinces in 3 weeks at furthest. This would place almost 11, in the remotest parts about 10 months between the publication and execution of the decree. What, then, was the motive for such an interval? Certainly, so long a time could not be required for preparing to carry it out. Nor is this hinted at in the text, nor could it be intended that the Jews should suffer a long period of anxiety. On the contrary, the motive seems to have been to cause many Jews to leave their property and escape to other lands, for the sake of preserving their lives. Thus, Haman would attain his object. He would be relieved of the presence of the Jews and be able to enrich himself by the approbation of their possessions. On the other hand, the providence of God overruling the event in the interest of the Jews is unmistakably evident both in Haman's haste to satisfy his desire for vengeance and in the falling of the lot upon so distant a day. It was only because there was so long an interval between the publication of the decree and the day appointed by lot for its execution that it was possible for the Jews to take means for averting the destruction with which they were threatened, as the further development of the history will show. Esther 4. Mordecai and the Jews mourn and fast because of the king's decree. Esther 4:1. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes, and put on sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city, and cried with a loud and a bitter cry. In biblical times, tearing one's clothes, wearing sackcloth, and putting ashes or dust on one's head were traditional ways of expressing distress or grief. Sackcloth was a rough, coarse material that typically was made into sturdy bags. Esther 4:2-4. And came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved.
Man, he's in mourning. He sounds so sad. Perhaps he's lost something. Or someone. He must be a Jew. He's dressed as a Hebrew.
Esther 4:4 continues through 11. And she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, and to take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not. Then called Esther from Hattach, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was. So Hattach went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Jews to destroy them. Also, he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king, to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people. And Hattach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Again Esther spake unto Hattach, and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law in his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. Esther knew she would be risking her life if she went before the king without having been called. Given this risk, some have questioned why Esther did not try to use official channels to secure an audience with the king. One possibility is that Esther avoided this option to prevent her message from passing through Haman, who would have undermined her plan. Esther 4:12. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Chico in Okazaki said, Mordecai and Esther were sending messages back and forth through a harem eunuch because once Esther had entered the house of women, she could never have direct contact with another man besides the king.
child, and evil abounds in the king's court. Haman hath won the king's heart, and has offered a sum of money for the king's treasuries, that he might destroy the Jews. Here is the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy us. For the good of thy father's house, I charge thee to go in unto the king, and make supplication unto him for thy people.
Mordecai, do you not realize the weight of thy request? All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, will be put to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter. I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days.
Esther 4:13-14. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, Think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall there enlargement or breadth or relief, and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
My queen, Mordecai giveth this message in return. If thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall thou and thy father's house be destroyed. What doth he mean, thy father's house?
Is that all?
No. He hath said also, Who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
Adonai,
Adonai,
Elohei Yisrael,
Elohei Israel,
Yoshev HaKruvim,
Yoshev HaKruvim,
Adonai, Elohei Israel, Yoshev HaKruvim, Hoshienu na. You have been a good father to me.
Each will be considered as to her worthiness to be presented to the king.
Time comes too quickly.
I will watch for you often beyond the king.
I present Queen Esther.
I charge thee to go in unto the king.
Do you not realize the weight of thy
Who
request?
knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
The Jewish people of the empire suffered deep shock when the terrible news was spread, and upon Esther there came a double burden. First, the saddening news of the proclamation of death for her people, then the challenge to risk death herself to try to avert the general calamity. One of the hints of religiousness in the major characters of this story is given in Mordecai's challenging statement to Esther. Who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? It appears that an overseeing providence and purpose are implied even though God is not explicitly mentioned here or elsewhere in this book. In other words, Mordecai told Esther that she was perhaps raised up at that time for that very purpose. It is also implied that Esther's beauty was a gift from God to put her into the position where she could gain the favor of the king and save her people. Mordecai indicated that the Lord may have placed Esther in her position as queen, so she could be his instrument in saving the Jews. Modern-day church leaders have made similar observations about the Lord's involvement in our lives. Elder Neely Maxwell taught that the Lord does not do things by coincidence, but instead by divine design. Elder Ronald A. Rasband testified, "The Lord's hand is guiding you. By divine design, he is in the small details of your life, as well as the major milestones." Virginia U. Jensen said, "I do not believe that you and I are here at this unique time by accident. I believe that, like Esther of old, we are come to the kingdom for such a time as this, when our influence, our example, our strength, and our faith may stand as a bulwark against the rising tide of evil that threatens to engulf our homes, our families, and our loved ones." Mary Ellen Smoot said, "Consider Esther's dilemma. It was against the law to approach the king without being summoned. Such an act was punishable by death. If she were to remain quiet, she would likely enjoy a life of luxury and ease. She could live the life of a queen, or risk her life to save her family and her people. She counted the cost and chose to heed the longings of her people and of her heart. Esther, at the peril of her life, prepares to go in unto the king." Esther 4:15-16. Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer: "Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. But if I perish, I perish."
Hatach! Mordecai, go. Gather together all the Jews that are present in the city, and fast ye for me. And neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. And so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish.
2 things in this verse make it of particular importance: Esther's admonition to fast for 3 days and 3 nights, and her determination to endanger her life, if need be, to save her people. She had not been called to go in to the king for 30 days, and had most likely concluded that she did not please him, and would be unwelcome if she went to him unbidden. Her words are an expression not of despair, but of resignation in light of what she had determined she had to do. Oriental kings usually had numerous wives, who usually appeared only when summoned and did not take it upon themselves to see him. Going into the king's presence without permission was a capital offense. Esther's life was in jeopardy. Esther 4:17. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. What do you learn from Esther 4:10-17 about having courage to do the right thing? Reading Esther 4:1-3 and 10-17 could help you teach your children about fasting. Why did Esther and the Jews fast? Tell your children why you fast. You could also ask them how they would explain fasting to a friend who has never done it before. How could we help our friends understand the blessings that come from fasting? Encourage your children to think of something they might need the Lord's help with. Suggest they make that part of their fast during the next Fast Sunday. Joseph Lee Robinson said, "The Lord gave us a beautiful daughter, but she became afflicted and had fits, and it seemed we could not stop them. We had heard the prophet Joseph say that if any member of a family was sick, and the head of the family would fast 3 days, the sick should get better. Knowing him to be a true prophet of God, we believed what he said. My wife proposed to fast. I replied, if you think you can stand it nursing a child, I certainly will try it. I was afflicted with rheumatism in my back and hips, So I had this also to fast and pray for. The first day was the hardest for me. The second day came, and no eating, but plenty of work. The third day we ate no dinner until supper time. We felt satisfied that our 3 days' fast was completed. We ate our supper, but as yet there had been no change with the fits on the child or with my lameness. We retired to our bed to rest, after saying our prayers as usual. And as the Lord liveth, those fits upon our child stopped, and my lameness went entirely away. We received this as a signal favor and a great blessing from the hand of God.